So there's actually a movie, and it's called No Country for Old Men. And in this movie, there is a bar scene. And in this scene, there's a man who is named Anton, who is Xavier Bardem's character. Now, in this scene, this man sits across from the old gas station clerk. And during the scene, the air is very heavy, the room is silent. And basically, this main character, Anton, doesn't blink not even once. His eyes lock onto the man's unshaken, unwavering in a super, super strong way. What happens is basically all this tension builds up, and the clerk, the guy who he's looking at, who the main character is basically staring down, stumbles through his words. He becomes really nervous. He becomes really unsure of himself, and he can basically feel it. He can feel that something is happening, but he doesn't quite know what. Now, the main character, who is still standing there, is a man who is named Anton, and in this scene, he sits across from the old gas station, staring at him, who hasn't even blinked once, almost like a wolf who's deciding whether to attack or not. Basically, just continues staring him down, and the entire scene is terrifying because of one simple thing, that the main character, Anton, never breaks eye contact. Now, here's where it gets really crazy. This exact same situation actually plays out in the real world every single day with women, except the overwhelming majority of men completely and utterly fail it, which is why they're never able to quote unquote switch women on, okay? It's this exact same unbroken eye contact, the kind that would make another man sweat, so to speak, the kind that you would almost like you'd stare down like a wild animal, like if you saw a lion in the wild or something. This unbroken gaze actually has the potential to double a woman's excitedness towards you. In other words, how quote unquote excited she gets towards you when it is used correctly. But if you break it even once, even for just a split second, everything resets to zero. In other words, a woman's excitedness for you, you want to call it that, basically resets to zero. Okay, so what this is basically called the 90 eye contact rule. And essentially what it means is to hold frame, so to speak, through 90 unbroken eye contact during a tense moment. Okay, and if you're able to do this, what it does is it essentially doubles a woman's excitedness for you, okay? But if you fail it, it resets how excited she is, quote unquote, for you, back to zero, okay? So why does this work like magic? So if you look at most guys out there, most of the men who fail with women, they absolutely misunderstand eye contact, and they think that it's basically about staring hard. They think that it's about, having some sort of creepy eye contact when you look at women. And they think that they should look away constantly to seem non-threatening to women. This is what most guys do when most guys interact with women. They typically look away so that they don't seem as threatening. Okay, most men are programmed this way by default, but it's just the most basic thing that most guys do that makes them get extremely terrible results with women. What you have to understand is that eye contact, when it comes to women, it's all about eye contact, and it's all about eye contact, and it's all about eye contact, and it's all about holding tension and tension when held without breaking. Like, in other words, when you're holding this eye contact 90% of the time without even blinking. What this does is it creates one very, very powerful thing in women, and this one thing is arousal. Okay, a study on human attraction found that when a man maintains 90 unbroken eye contact, and this is the key, during a tense or emotional moment or situation, the woman in this situation was reported to have doubled levels of excitement for that guy. In other words, she gets excited for you at essentially double the rate. Okay, so this is not a small increase. This is an enormous increase in terms of how attracted she is by you, in terms of how excited she is by you. Okay, this is an enormous amount when you double something. That's absolutely huge.
But here's the catch. If during this emotionally tense moment, if you break eye contact even once, if you can't hold the tension, and you basically look away for even a split second, her brain completely resets and her attractiveness for you, in other words, how excited she is for you or how switched on she is for you, basically resets back to zero. Okay, so it's kind of like dropping a weight in the middle of a bicep curl. You basically lose all the tension and you're not able to hold the tension. You lose all that progress and it's all gone. Okay, this is why so many guys miss out on attraction. It's why they basically are they get very poor results with women. They don't know how to actually get women excited. It's simply because when it comes to eye contact, they don't know how to use it the right way, and so they look away too soon. They can't even look at a woman in the eyes for any length of time at all, let alone for 90% of a really tense emotional moment. Okay, most guys get comfortable. They second guess themselves. They don't know how to use it the right way, and so they look away too soon themselves, and they don't trust the power of eye contact and how you can use it to trigger attraction. Okay? And it's in that moment when you have an emotional moment or a very tense moment with a woman, in that moment, that tension is what makes all the difference. How you use your eye contact during that tense moment, it makes all the difference. So why does eye contact trigger desire? Why does this work so powerfully? And there's actually a reason why it's so powerful, a reason behind every powerful man in history. Why all the most powerful men in history, all the leaders, all the warriors, all the greatest fighters, all the greatest seducers, all these men, they have one thing in common, and it's that they don't break eye contact first when they look at a woman. Okay, the most tense moment, basically, that you can have with a woman is when you first meet her, when you first lay eyes on a woman, and you've never seen her before. That's pretty much the same thing, as much as tense as it can get, because it's almost like you're seeing, a potential threat for the first time. And so how you handle that first interaction, that very first moment of eye contact, that determines almost everything. Okay? And if you look at all the greatest seducers out there, the greatest, most powerful warriors, most powerful seductive men in history, the thing they all have in common is that when they first look at a woman, for example, they don't break eye contact first. Okay? It's very, very important in nature. What you have to understand is that eye contact is always seen as dominance when it comes to nature, when it comes to the animal kingdom. Okay, if in nature, if you look at predators hold eye contact before they strike. Okay, if you look at the alpha male, in pretty much every species out there, what they typically do is they stare down their competition. In order to establish rank now in human psychology, the longer that someone maintains eye contact, the more powerful they are perceived to be. Okay, think about that. In human psychology, the longer that you can hold eye contact with other humans, unbroken eye contact, the more powerful you are perceived to be. And for women, this actually goes even deeper. And the reason why is because a woman's brain is wired to scan for dominance, control, and certainty. And so a man who holds eye contact, especially during moments of tension, basically signals all through the eye contact. And so a man who holds eye contact with a woman is giving out all three of these things. You're giving out all three of these signals. You're giving out dominance, control, and certainty, with nothing more than the power of how you use your eyes. Okay? So basically, just by looking at a woman and holding eye contact for 90% of the time during a tense or emotional moment, you can basically tell a woman that you're not a guy who flinches, that you're a guy who's fully present, and that you don't need to look away because you are the strongest force in that moment. Okay. It's essentially a form of, okay. And what you have to understand is that a woman's body pretty much reacts instinctively to this. Her heart rate will go up, her breathing rate will change, and adrenaline will start to fire, because essentially it is almost like the fight or flight response. It's like a threat. Okay? But for women, what you have to understand is that this is a good thing, okay? Women actually like feeling like this. They enjoy this, okay? And so, if you break eye contact with a woman, even once during a tense or emotional moment, instead of holding unbroken eye contact for 90% of the time, If you break eye contact even once, her brain instantaneously resets, okay? And the moment is gone, and her excitement for you, okay? So if you look for proof of this, there's proof of this everywhere. Okay, if you look at the most iconic seduction scenes in many different movies, you look at James Bond, right? James Bond is always holding eye contact with a woman, holding eye contact just a little bit too long. If you actually pay attention to him in his movies, you'll see that he always holds eye contact just a little bit too long, okay? Just enough to where it just has that enormous effect on women. It has that effect to where it just makes him like doubly excited for him, okay? It makes them doubly attracted to him. If you look at a movie like Fight Club, right? Tyler Durden, the main character, he's always staring, waiting, and forcing others to react first, okay? It's all a sign of dominance. It's all basically dominance. If you look at, many of you might not have seen this movie, but if you look at 50 Shades of Grey, okay? The main character, Christian, like it or not, if you really pay attention to this movie, the entire fantasy in that movie is built on what it's built on: dominant and unbroken eye contact. Okay? And it's not about talking more. It's not about the perfect pickup line. It really just comes down to making a woman feel tension. That's what this does. Okay? That's what this 90 eye contact rule does. It makes women feel tension. And tension is built through one thing and one thing only, which is unbroken 90 eye contact in the moments that matter. Okay? So what this means is that whenever you have a very tense or emotional moment with a woman, which, for example, could be when you first see her, when you first meet a woman, okay, or maybe when you're walking by her in the mall or something, okay, when you first lay eyes on each other, you first lock eyes with a woman that is a tense moment, okay? So that's a time where this would apply: 90 unbroken eye contact until she looks away. Okay, you're not going to be doing this, every single time you're talking to a woman. You're not going to be constantly, staring at her 90% of the time. You could theoretically do this, but it would be kind of weird. Okay, so this mostly just applies to any situation where the situation is very tense or very emotional. Okay? So it has to be very tense or very emotional. That's when it's going to have the greatest effect. When you hold unbroken eye contact, 90 eye contact, during one of these moments. For example, it could even be when you're having a fight with a woman. Okay? If you hold 90 eye contact during this moment, it will actually double her attraction for you. It will double her excitedness for you. Okay? It will basically, or it could be a seductive pause. It could be when you see a woman for the first time. All that you want to do is hold your eye contact with her for 90% of the time. You want 90% of the eye contact to be unbroken, meaning you're not looking away, okay? And if you just hold it through the tension, this has an enormous effect, okay? Because the second that you break it during one of these tense or emotional moments, her brain resets to zero. Her attractiveness, essentially, or how you know excited she is for you, it all resets to zero. Okay, so the more that you do this, the more powerful it becomes. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and until next time, thanks for watching.